All right, Wes, I see you want to talk a little bit about how you add an asset into the Veritas Resiliency Platform.
Yes.
Why don't you take us through that?
All righty. So the first thing, since in Veritas Resiliency Platform, what we're dealing with is migrations, takeovers, and rehearsals, we have to have the components that we're going to be starting up and shutting down through these migrations and rehearsals and takeovers under VRP control, at least so VRP can manage those, has access to them to start them up and shut them down. So the assets that we can add to this environment are applications and virtual machines. The virtual machines in the form of Hyper-V virtual machines or VMware virtual machines. So it would be VMs running on ESX servers. The applications would be Oracle on Linux or SQL Server on Windows, or customized configurations, because we do have an application software development kit that you can use to implement your own applications into this environment. So to do an add asset process, what we're going to do is basically via browser connect to our resiliency manager. From the resiliency manager, we're going to go to our settings menu, we're going to go to infrastructure, and we're going to choose the associated infrastructure management server that we want to associate to our individual components. This is going to be our communication path to whatever component needs to be started and stopped and managed, essentially. So we're going to select that infrastructure management server, in which case our browser connection will go to here, because this is running its own web service. This is called a cross-launch operation. When we do that, we're going to get a page that looks similar to this. We're going to have 4 boxes in here. One's hosts, one's devices, one's virtualization, and one's deployment. We're not talking about the deployment one, because that's for doing upgrades and patching and things like that. These are the ones we're dealing with. If I am adding an application, then I need to discover the host that has the application running on it. And we're going to discover right out of the gate Oracle on Linux, SQL Server on Sybase. Excuse me, SQL Server on Sybase. SQL Server on Windows. Okay? So we have a series of applets that will perform this discovery. And it's basically on a Windows box. We're looking for SQL Server. We're looking for Hyper-V. On a Linux box, we're looking for Oracle. And what we discover becomes our asset. Okay? If I'm doing virtual machines, if it's Hyper-V, I'm going to add host to discover. But if it's VMware, we actually go through the vCenter Server APIs. So we're going to select virtualization. And then we specify the parameters to connect to our vCenter server. And then through that, we learn about the ESX servers and their associated VMs. Okay? Now, when we perform this discovery, we need to associate storage to these. So storage comes essentially in 2 flavors. Direct connection to the storage device, where all we need to do is go into the devices here and define the type of storage and connectivity to it, like a NetApp box. We're going to need to define IP addresses and permissions and stuff to be able to connect to that NetApp array and perform replication tasks, starting, stopping, reversing roles. If it's a box like an EMC box, we're running SRDF, we need a control host, another box that basically is running our SimCLI software and stuff, gatekeeper stuff. And this gives us the ability to manage that replication. So we'll add this as a host and gives us our hook. And then when we do our storage configuration, we'll add the control host as a host. We define the storage here, like the path to our SimCLI utilities. And that gives us our management piece on that side. If we're dealing with global clustering service groups in a VCS environment, Veritas Cluster Server, we're basically bypassing this whole mechanism because we're not connecting to an IMS. What we are connecting to is a VOM server. So the VOM server connects directly to the resiliency manager, and it performs the discovery of what's out in our cluster. And then we can manage that. And the applications that are running in our global service group show up as application assets. Okay? And that's pretty much it. So applications become assets, virtual machines are assets. Storage is associated to one or the other.
Great. Wes, thank you for taking us through this. We appreciate it.
Excellent.